My name is Mark, and for the most part, I believed I had built a good life. I'm 42, married to Emma for the last 18 years, and together we've raised two beautiful kids. Lily, our 17-year-old daughter who's whip-smart and opinionated, and Jake, our curious, slightly goofy 13-year-old son. We lived in a quiet neighborhood just outside of Seattle, in a modest but comfortable house filled with the noise of family dinners, teenage complaints, and late-night movie marathons. Our marriage wasn't perfect. Whose is? We had our disagreements, mostly about parenting styles or my habit of leaving dishes in the sink, but nothing ever felt unmanageable. Emma worked in mental health, counseling trauma survivors. She had a way with people, calm, compassionate, deeply intuitive. She'd often come home emotionally drained, but I admired her for the work she did. I work in IT for a mid-sized firm, not flashy, but stable. I liked being the dependable one, the one who kept things grounded. Our lives moved with rhythm and familiarity. Friday night takeout, Saturday soccer games, Sunday morning pancakes. That kind of life. Emma's ex, Daniel, had recently gone through a hard time. His mother passed away suddenly. I remember Emma mentioning it in passing, expressing sympathy. I nodded, offered my condolences. I didn't think much of it. After all, that chapter of her life had ended long before we met. She reassured me years ago that their relationship was over and done with. Back then, I had no reason to doubt her. We were a unit, a team. I genuinely believed that whatever storms came our way, we'd weather them together. But I had no idea that the next storm was already forming on the horizon. It started on a quiet Tuesday evening, one of those ordinary nights when nothing seemed out of place. I was chopping vegetables for dinner while Emma stood at the kitchen counter, sipping tea. The kids were upstairs, Jake was gaming, and Lily was on FaceTime with her best friend. The scent of garlic and rosemary filled the room, the kind of smell that usually made the house feel warm. That's when she said it. "I've been thinking about staying with Daniel for a few weeks," Emma said, almost too casually. I looked up from the cutting board, knife paused midair. "What? Just for a little while. Maybe 30 days, give or take. He's really struggling since his mom passed. I think being there might help him process things better." I blinked, trying to process what I had just heard. "You want to live with your ex for a month, to help him heal?" She nodded, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "He doesn't have anyone else, Mark. And he's been dealing with depression. It's not romantic. I just want to make sure he doesn't spiral." My stomach dropped. "Emma, can't you support him over the phone? Or suggest a therapist? You're a professional. Isn't that what you always tell your clients?" She sighed, clearly annoyed. "This isn't about therapy. It's about being there. He needs a familiar presence. Someone who knows him." I stepped back, my appetite gone. "But I'm your husband. What about us? What does this mean for our family?" Emma reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "You have to trust me," she said softly. "This is just a compassionate act. It's not a big deal." Not a big deal. The words echoed in my head like a siren. To her, maybe it wasn't. But to me, it was the moment something fundamental shifted, a crack in the foundation of the life we'd built. I couldn't shake the feeling that something far deeper was hiding beneath her calm explanation. Something she wasn't telling me. But instead of arguing further, I nodded numbly. I didn't know it yet, but that silence would cost me more than any words ever could. Later that night, after the dishes were done and the silence between Emma and me had stretched too long, I sat down with Lily in the living room. She was curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone, earbuds in. I hesitated before speaking. Part of me didn't even want to bring her into this mess. But she was old enough to see what was happening, and I needed her to understand. "Hey," I said gently, sitting on the edge of the armchair across from her. "Can we talk for a second? About your mom?" She looked up, pulled one earbud out. "Yeah. She told me she's going to stay with Daniel for a while." I began, watching her face for any flicker of surprise. There was none, just a nod, as if she already knew. "She said it was just to help him," Lily said. "I think it's really kind of her." Kind. That word hit me like a slap. "But she's leaving us. For 30 days. To live with her ex, don't you think that's crossing a line?" Lily frowned. "You're making it sound worse than it is, Dad. Mom's not doing anything wrong. She's just helping someone she cares about. You always told us to be there for people when they're hurting. But she's married. To me," I said, trying not to let my voice shake. "Shouldn't that matter?" She shrugged. "You're overreacting. Honestly, You're kind of being controlling about it." Her words pierced deeper than I expected. My own daughter, the little girl I once carried on my shoulders through carnivals and walked to school every morning, now saw me as the problem. The next morning, Emma rolled her suitcase to the door. No tearful goodbyes. No second thoughts. Just a quick hug to Jake, a kiss on Lily's forehead, and a glance at me that said everything and nothing. The door shut behind her with a soft click that echoed louder than any scream. The house suddenly felt colder. Jake didn't ask questions. He just buried himself in his video games, refusing to look me in the eye. And for the first time in years, I felt like a stranger in my own home. The first few days without Emma were a blur of routines and silence. I woke up early, made breakfast, packed Jake's lunch, and drove Lily to school, though she barely spoke to me, earphones plugged in like a wall between us. I cleaned the kitchen, did the laundry, folded towels I didn't remember washing. It was like moving through life underwater. I became a single parent overnight, not by tragedy but by choice, hers. The irony didn't escape me. We were still technically married, still shared a mortgage, but the weight of parenting and maintaining the home fell entirely on me. There was no we anymore, just me. At work, people noticed the tired eyes and forced smiles. "You all right, man?" my coworker Paul asked one afternoon. I gave him the standard lie. "Yeah, just tired. You know how it is." He nodded, but his eyes lingered on mine like he knew there was more. Still, I didn't say anything. How could I? Saying it out loud made it too real. Nights were the hardest. After putting Jake to bed and hearing Lily's bedroom door shut for the night, I'd lie in our bed, now just mine, staring at the ceiling, wondering, was she really just helping her ex? What did they talk about? Did they laugh over old memories, fall asleep on the same couch, brush hands accidentally, and not pull away? I checked her social media like a man looking for clues. Nothing obvious, just a photo of a sunset, a quote about grief and healing, comments filled with sympathy and heart emojis. She looked like a saint from the outside. No one knew the storm she left behind. I texted her once late at night. "How are things?" She replied hours later. "Busy. He's having a rough day." No warmth. No questions about the kids. No, "I miss you." I stared at the screen for a long time, the blue light burning my eyes. That cold detachment, it cut deeper than any betrayal. It told me I was no longer part of her world. I was just someone she left behind in the name of compassion. And yet, I still hoped she'd come back. It was a Saturday afternoon when the truth began to surface, not with a confrontation, but with a careless comment over coffee. I had bumped into Claire, a mutual friend of Emma's and mine, at the local grocery store. We chatted briefly before she mentioned, offhandedly, "I saw Emma and Daniel at that little Italian place downtown the other night. They looked cozy, holding hands across the table. It's good he has her right now." I froze. They were holding hands. I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Claire tilted her head, clearly confused. "Oh, I thought you knew. I mean, I assumed they were getting close again. With everything going on, it makes sense, right?" I forced a smile, nodded stiffly, and made up some excuse to leave. My heart was hammering by the time I reached the car. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe. My worst fear wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was fact dressed in a casual remark. When I got home, I noticed Lily on the couch, glued to her phone as usual, smiling slightly at something she was reading. I asked her what she was up to, and she shrugged. "Just texting Mom." That was the moment I realized she knew more than she let on. She had picked a side, and it wasn't mine. Later that night, I found an old photo tucked between two books on our shelf, our wedding day. Emma in her simple ivory dress, eyes lit up with joy, my arm around her waist, both of us laughing. A moment captured in purity. A time before doubt, before detachment, before Daniel. I stared at the photo for a long time, trying to remember what it felt like to believe in forever. I finally called her. When she picked up, her voice was calm, distant, like I was an obligation. "I need to ask you something," I said. "Are you having an affair?" A pause. Then, "It's complicated." That was all she said. Not a denial. Not a lie. Just that, vague, evasive, and cruel in its honesty. And with those two words, something in me finally snapped. After weeks of emotional spiraling, I booked an appointment with a therapist. I didn't tell anyone. Not Lily, not Jake, not even Emma. I just knew I couldn't keep drowning in silence. The therapist was a calm woman in her 50s named Dr. Klein. She listened patiently as I spoke for the first time. Really spoke about the confusion, the betrayal, the aching loneliness. After I finished, she leaned forward and asked me a question that landed like a punch to the gut. Why are you tolerating emotional abandonment? I had no answer. That night, I stared at her words scribbled in my journal. It was the first time I'd written in years. Something about seeing it on the page, the truth of my situation in my own handwriting, made it impossible to ignore anymore. I had been waiting for Emma to wake up, to come home, to explain. But all I was really doing was choosing pain every single day. So I started taking back my life in small ways. I joined a local gym and went every morning at 6 a.m. It wasn't just about fitness. It was about reclaiming control, routine, power. I felt my mind clearing, bit by bit. One weekend, I told Jake we were going camping, just the two of us. He lit up like it was Christmas. We packed our gear, drove to the mountains, and spent 2 days fishing, hiking, and laughing around a fire. I saw a version of him I hadn't seen in weeks. Relaxed, open, talkative. I realized then how much he'd been absorbing, even in silence. I invited Lily too, but she refused. I don't want to be in the middle, she said sharply. Then turned and walked away. It stung, but I let her go. She had her own journey to take. Out there in the woods, under a sky full of stars, I made a quiet vow. I couldn't make Emma love me. I couldn't undo her choices. But I could stop waiting to be chosen. I could choose myself. And for the first time in months, that thought didn't feel like defeat. It felt like freedom. 30 days passed, slowly, painfully. And then one evening, just as the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, Emma walked through the front door. No warning, no call, just walked in. She set down her suitcase, took a breath, and said with a smile, "Daniel's doing much better now. He's in a good place. I'm really glad I could help him through it." Then she looked at me as if nothing had happened. "Thank you for being so understanding." I stood across the room, frozen. Not out of shock. I had already processed everything. But because of how casually she returned, as though the past month hadn't changed anything. She kicked off her shoes and began moving toward the kitchen. "I figured I'd make dinner tonight," she said, as if she'd only been gone for a weekend trip. "I thought maybe spaghetti?" "No," I said quietly, my voice calm but unshakable. "I think we need to talk." She paused, turning slowly, smile fading just slightly. "About what?" "About how things aren't going back to the way they were," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean the trust is broken, Emma. You didn't just step out for a while. You abandoned your marriage. You left your family to comfort your ex and expected us to wait and welcome you back with open arms." From the stairs, Lily stood watching, frozen in place. She looked back and forth between us, her expression unreadable. Emma's voice turned sharp. "So what? You're just going to throw this family away? After everything we've built?" I shook my head. "You're the one who walked away, Emma. I didn't tear this family apart. You made that choice the moment you packed your suitcase." She opened her mouth to protest, but nothing came. For once, the silence was hers. Lily stepped forward. "Wait, are you serious, Dad?" I turned to her gently. "Yes, sweetheart. I am." Emma stood there, stunned, not because she didn't know this was coming, but because she never thought I'd follow through. But I had. I had chosen myself. And I wasn't turning back. After months of turmoil and soul-searching, I made the hardest decision of my life. I filed for separation. It wasn't fueled by anger or revenge, but by a desperate need for peace. Staying in limbo wasn't living. It was surviving, and I wanted more than that. Lily chose to move in with Emma. At 17, she wanted to be close to her mother, even if it meant stepping away from me. Jake, just 13, stayed with me. His presence was a balm, a reminder that not all was lost. Together, we began creating new routines in the quiet house that once felt so full. The painful days didn't disappear overnight. Some nights, I would stare at my phone, aching for a call or message that never came. Holidays felt hollow without the usual family chaos. But amidst the sorrow was a growing clarity. No more confusion, no more waiting or begging for explanations or affection. I realized that healing doesn't mean forgetting or pretending everything is fine. It means accepting reality and moving forward with grace, even when your heart feels shattered. One evening, Jake and I sat outside, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky was painted in shades of pink and gold, and in that quiet moment, words weren't necessary. We shared a calm, simple connection, just father and son against the vastness of the world. I thought about everything we had lost and everything still to come. Sometimes, losing what you thought was your whole world is the first step to finding your real one. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now.